Come and meet the 60-point Dark Eldar character, which will usually average somewhere between 20 and 30 attacks on the charge, and theoretically can get up to 42. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about a very silly Dark Eldar Succubus build that Games Workshop seems to have dropped the ball on the maths for in their Drukhari Codex and the Charadon supplements. Basically, whenever I've posted a Dark Eldar video over the last few weeks, people have been mentioning in the comments that I really should talk about this one, and it has already been fairly well discussed on other places in the internet as well, including a very similar build popping up on Games Workshop's Meta Watch page. I will say that the worst excesses of this are very likely to be fixed in an FAQ very soon, but until then, let's see exactly what this Razorflail Succubus can do. First of all, let's talk about all the combinations that make this fighty character happen, and then look through its truly monumental damage output. Perhaps one of the silliest things about the whole thing is that it's really cheap, a 60-point Succubus, equipped with just one Warlord trait and relic, which could be free if it's your main Warlord, or could just cost you 1 command point each otherwise. At base, our Succubus gets 6 attacks hitting on 2s at a measly strength 3, but we can improve on that considerably. First up, we can take the combat drug Adrenalite for +1 attack on the charge, so we're up to strength 7. In theory, you could use Grave Lotus for an extra +1 strength, but +1 attack seems to be the best for this build. We then take the free weapon upgrade of Razorflails. These are an interesting close combat weapon that give you double the attacks, but they're fairly measly in profile, only being AP-1 and damage 1. However, with Adrenalite, we're getting 14 attacks base here, even if they are quite weak ones. To make those attacks considerably stronger, we can then make it even stronger with the Dark Lotus Toxin. This is one of the unique relics from the Cult of Strife found in that Charadon expansion pack. Dark Lotus will give us +1 strength to strength 5 and +1 damage, so all of our attacks are damage 2, far better for threatening multi-wound models and bigger critters. Because of Blade Artists, all of those attacks will also be an extra AP-1 on 6s, which is quite relevant when you're at quite low AP. And though the Witch Cult of Strife doesn't actually give us any extra damage output, it means that we will typically fight first, and also get a nice +1 to charge against unengaged units, both of which will help you get in combat and actually make those attacks. Overall though, so far we're up to 14 attacks at strength 4, AP-1 with boosts on 6s, and damage 2. Already very respectable for a 60-point model and 1 command point. On top of this, the scary Warlord trait to add to this is Competitive Edge. This one's quite an unusual one, in that every attack that doesn't inflict damage on the enemy unit, whether it misses, fails to wound, or the opponent passes the save, suddenly gets to make 1 additional attack. This is actually a really good buff for whatever weapon that you have, but the potentially slightly broken thing on this Blender Succubus is that rules as written, that extra attack will be used with the Razorflails, and every time you make an attack with Razorflails, you get to roll 2 dice rather than 1. This means that each attack that either doesn't hit, doesn't wound, or the opponent passes their save, you'll actually get to fight with another 2 attacks. So say for example, if your first 14 attacks all didn't inflict any damage from somehow, you basically get to use all of those attacks again twice over, and have another go with a massive extra 28 attacks, giving you a theoretical maximum of 42. In reality, you're likely to get some damage through, but still, depending on exactly what you're fighting, you're usually going to be getting between 20 and 30 attacks out of the model. This is the bit that I fully expect to get FAQs. I don't think that Games Workshop is at all intending for the Razorflail's doubling effect to work twice in combination with this Warlord trait, and I definitely expect that that aspect will get FAQs, but even if you can't use the doubling effects twice, this model does still remain insanely strong. The other option for the Warlord trait when you have so many damage to attacks is the Precision Blows, and this means for every hit roll of 6, you get 2 mortal wounds straight off, and the attack sequence ends. When you're fighting with 14 damage to attacks, it means that each time this model fights, you'll average a bit over 5 mortal wounds, never mind all the actual damage that the attacks do themselves. Finally, before we get into damage output, there are a few other stratagems that you could add into the mix. Perhaps the most important is Art of the Kill, that allows you for 2 command points to reroll wound rolls, and when you're rolling with this many attacks, it's well worth it. You can spend the extra 15 points to upgrade to a Master Succubus for some consolidation shenanigans so you don't remain in combat after you've fought, and then there's a couple more niche ones, 2 CP for the Blade Well Placed for an extra AP-1, could be worth it if you're fighting against some 2+ saves perhaps, and then you can theoretically spend another 2 CP for Hypersting Backlash, that'll give you an extra 2 combat drug attacks with the Razorflails, but in reality I think that's not going to be worth 2 CP. So let's see what this 60-point murder monster can do then. In this build we have 60 points, 1 Warlord trait and 1 relic as the only investment, and that gives us Razorflail's Adrenalite, Dark Lotus and Competitive Edge. Out of the stratagems I've only chosen to use Art of the Kill for the reroll wound rolls, and we're going to let the Succubus get to work on a few different targets. If we go the first, and I believe rules as written correct interpretation of the rule now, you do get the extra 2 additional attacks for every one that fails, and that will average you a truly insane 15 dead guardsmen, 10 dead Space Marine intercessors, or 18 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle. This little flaily Succubus will happily chew through an entire squad of Space Marines at around 200 points, dice a main battle tank to death, or chew straight through a Bloodthirster in one round of combat. Now of course that is likely to go away I think, but even if we just get the 1 attack then the damage results are still impressive. You're still getting 12 dead guardsmen, 7 or 8 dead intercessors, and still 13 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle, so if you're charging something like a Predator tank, it's still likely to get cut to bits. It's truly insane for a 60 point model and a few command points, and I think that point for point it might well be just one of the most fighty and dangerous models in the game. It's particularly strong as she's so self-sufficient, you don't need any other units nearby, just her. Just for some comparison, and if Games Workshop does decide to directly nerf Competitive Edge as opposed to the interaction, you can still get some very powerful numbers out of using Precision Blows. If again we go with Precision Blows, Razorflails and the Dark Lotus Toxin, that gives you a 14 attack Succubus, Strength 4, AP minus 1 or 2, Damage 2, and every roll of 6 gets 2 mortal wounds on the opponent. That's still some very impressive numbers, 10 to 11 dead guardsmen on the charge, 5 dead intercessors, and 9 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle, and I would stress that this time we're not using the reroll to wound stratagem for 2 CP, otherwise we will be putting out a bit more damage. This is still comfortably in the territory of making all the points back in one single fight phase, let alone if you get to fight twice. Finally there's the excellent Triptych Whip and Precision Blows combo. This one quite nice as it isn't actually locked to Cult of Strife, so you could use it for one of the other cults. This one will give you 10 attacks at Strength 3, AP minus 3, Damage 2, and it's a poison weapon, wounding on a 2+. That one will average you 9 dead guardsmen, a bit better on the intercessors with 6 dead, but not quite on the same level against vehicles, only averaging about 5 wounds to a toughness 7 one, just due to the poison weapon not being as good at wounding it. It is quite nice as well that you could fill this Triptych Whip build alongside the one with the Razorflails and Competitive Edge, so you could have 2 Murder Monster 60 point Succubi. Between the two of them, theoretically 120 points worth of models, killing around 16 Space Marines in a single fight phase. So let me know what you think of the silly combo down in the comments below. As I said, I wouldn't get too worked up about it until we've actually seen the Drukhari Codex FAQ. I'd be pretty amazed if this does survive that, and I would bear in mind that with these fighty characters, you are having to invest Warlord traits and relics, and if they are in any way exposed to enemy return firepower, they are just going to get shot straight dead in return. Certainly a strong option for one-shotting a unit, but it certainly won't necessarily carry an entire game just on one fighty character. In any case, I fully look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas down in the video comments. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be trying to cover some interesting combos as the codexes come out. Finally, if you'd like to help keep the videos coming and keep Auspex Tactics going, I would just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page which you can find down in the video description. Making all this content does take a fair amount of time, and if you are enjoying regularly, then any support is massively appreciated to keep the videos coming. As a thank you, channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next for the channel, and automatic entry into the channel's prize giveaways, which happen once a month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.